Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So hello, everybody. I see you guys are tuning in from all across the globe, which is what I love. I love when people just huddle together from everywhere. So today I will introduce you to the subject of resilience and how you can build resilience. I will try to give you an insight into the science, but also give you some hints how you can train it in your everyday life. So just a little something about myself. As you can see, I do not work with Lennox Hill. I do think, though, that they're pretty fabulous people so far. And so I have a background in journalism, actually. I used to be a journalist and a host for Swiss National Public Radio and Television for a long time. And that gave me over 20 years like a front row seat to people and their resilient lives. I was always interested in people who either went through trauma or overcame a really big hurdle or an obstacle in their life. So, and then at the same time, I also always worked with professors and I saw the science that they did. And I always saw it as my goal or my vision to bridge these two areas. So fast forward, here I am. I have my own business now called Harvest Education and Harvest Production, and I still do the same things. I translate the science into the everyday life, and I make it accessible for the everyday person. I think it is such a waste. You know, you have all this beautiful science, and then people don't know about it, and they don't know how to use it. And I think we can do something about it. I still do it through, I still work with the medium of films, I do classes, I do keynote speeches, and I have founded an NGO that is called Life Garden, and the Life Garden is, you have to imagine it as a public garden where people can come and train their resilience. So there's, you know, different stations where you can come and, you know, one helps you to fall, to focus better, one helps you to train your brain, all of this, and it is in nature. That also has to do because I always wanted to become a florist. I never did. And that sort of still gives me the opportunity to work with plants. We are also, through COVID, our resilience is tested there a little bit. We have to have patience. So currently we cannot open the garden, but that gives us more time to also find more people and define our project. So this is a little bit about me. And here we are. We will be speaking about resilience. Now, what is resilience? There is a few definitions, and I try to find the one that is just too easiest to understand. Resilience is our ability to bounce back from adversity. So how do we adapt, or how do we navigate when we are confronted with trauma or tragedy, or just, times when we have a lot of stress? And I think currently we all have that, I think we all have every day, we have very unforeseen challenges and stresses, and there is a lot of uncertainty. And so this is a challenge. And when you have resilience, or resilience helps you to go through these challenges, and ideally you also grow from it. You also learn very important lessons throughout this journey. And I would like you to think about your resilience as a set of mental skills. You know how Dr. D'Amico has a scalpel when he goes to the OR. It's also very important that he brings his resilience with him, because he doesn't really know what's going to happen. He has to be ready, he has to be focused, he has to be mentally strong in order, to go through this process of an operation. So really think of it as that. Think of it as something that is very important. It is strength that you have that will help you face your challenges and also overcome them. And I always like to find, metaphors, or, I like to find my little friends in the nature to also explain how it works. So here you go. Here you have the picture of a fresh young twig, and you see it grew out of pretty dire conditions when you look at this. So think of resilience also as something that resembles this twig. It is fresh, it's green, it's juicy, and when you twist it, it goes out of shape, but it doesn't break. Instead it springs back to where it was before, or almost where it's before, and ideally in the process it also continues to grow and become stronger. We can do that as well as human beings, and we can take our inspiration from nature. Nature is a wonderful, resilient ecosystem where we find many many resilient ways of being together. So here we are. We are going to look at the science of resilience, and we're going to do it together with Dennis Charney. Dr. Charney is not with us, but we actually don't need him because he wrote a wonderful book called Resilience, the Science of Mastering Life's Greatest Challenges, which is a science book that's also quite easy to read. And I also find him especially very entertaining. There is many speeches on YouTube that you can listen to that makes very clear that he is a person that has a lot of humor, and obviously he also is a big Bruce Springsteen fan, for those who are interested in that. He has been studying resilience for over 25 years, and the results you find in this book. But he also had the opportunity to really test his science when he was shot in his chest by a former employee 4 years ago. And so he said to himself, okay, I know how to navigate this, and let me try to do it. And he did that. What did he do? He tried to be optimistic. He started to set goals. I think already 8 weeks after he was shot, he wanted to give a speech, you know, in his faculty, all of these things. And he worked towards it. And his resilience really helped him to overcome this quite traumatic event in his life. You will also learn that I think he also tested the resilience on his kids. Not all of them were really happy about it, but, you know, at least how he says, they also profited from it. Dennis Charney has worked or looked at a lot of people who have overcome trauma, people who have been imprisoned during war, people who have overcome an illness, who had accidents, who had major losses in their lives. And he came out with about 10 resilience factors. He found out that these people find a way to face their fear. He also found out that these people most of the time have a moral compass. So they know what is right and wrong, and also they act accordingly. Most of them have some sort of spirituality in their life. They have cognitive and emotional flexibility. These are just some. We're gonna look at these 4 because we have a little bit of a time limit, and I also try to take some cues, who you guys are, where you are, and so I narrowed it down to these 4 that might be most helpful to you. So here are the 4 resilience factors we're going to look at. It's optimism. How do you keep a positive attitude? It is also, how do you train the brain to master your challenges? Social support and role models are very important you know, for a resilient person. How do you establish and nurture these social networks? And what is the role of a role model? A role model can be very important to give you a roadmap. And then also last but not least, we have purpose. Purpose basically is to narrow it down to know your why. You know, when you have purpose, you know why you do what you do. And ideally, you also know how you do it. So we're gonna look at this. Just to say, everything that is in the presentation, you will get a freebie at the end of this lesson. I created a little booklet for you. I also created screensavers with quotes from the doctors so that you can really, you know, I worked on some gadgets that help you train your own resilience. So you don't have to write down anything. You will have it in the booklet at the end. So we start with optimism. Optimism is having a positive attitude. So when you have optimism, you sort of have a future-oriented attitude. You have the confidence that things will turn out well. When you are an optimist, you focus your energy on what you can't change, and you'll also find a new way to look at your situation, as difficult as it might be. And in the next step, if you're advanced, I think you even find meaningful opportunities within it. It is very important that you have a realistic optimism. So we're not talking about some sort of Pollyanna kind of optimism where you just sort of sit and blindly believe that everything is going to be great. No, a realistic optimist doesn't dwell on negative information, looks for opportunities, and also thrives to find the positive within the negative. But you take into account the challenge that you face. So let's say if you have a horrible accident, or if you are going through a pretty tough time with grief, you might have lost a family member or anything like that. You take a realistic assessment of what you're going through. You need to know that, because if you don't know the situation you're in, you also don't know what you need to make it better. And an attitude that a lot of optimists have is that they will prevail and that they will find a way to get through it. Now, how can you change optimism? You will see that all the examples that I give you, none of them are rocket science. All of them are or sound easy, but once you start doing it and training them, you also find that it can be hard sometimes. So I am a big believer in a positive ritual. Rituals are very important to build resilience. Things that you do over and over again, and the more you do them, the stronger not only the ritual get, but also you. So you don't have to have a religion or be spiritual, whatever, but at the end of the day, write down at least 3 things that you're thankful for at the end of each day. There is one thing, it will help you to fall asleep better because you're in a more positive mindset. The last thing that you have focused on before you fall asleep is something positive, and it will calm you down. And I did a proper test drive on this, and I have realized that even in the toughest of your life circumstances, you always find something. It might be very small, it might not be super extraordinary, it might be very ordinary, but you will always find something that made your day good. So I'll give you an example. I was a couple of years ago, I was going through a pretty long and pretty tough time of grieving because somebody died in my family. And then I was giving this booklet, and this booklet, as you can see, it's a letter booklet. It was very expensive, and I was given to that by a friend, and it was too expensive to not use it. And she said to me, write down these 3 things at the end of the day that made you happy, that gave you joy today. And so when we look at the first thing that I wrote down was, I am happy that this day is over. But as we go through this booklet, I then also found things like, oh, it was so great. Today, somebody told me a really good joke. Or, oh, today when I ordered coffee, somebody gave me a tiny piece of chocolate. It's things that I have never realized because I was so stressed and so busy. But once you write it down, slowly you try to also identify and see the little joys that you experience going throughout the day. And they are very essential. When you have a tough day and you look for your little joy helpers, the little sparks in your everyday life, it can change your day. And, you know, with the list of 3 things, I think that is really doable at the end of the day. You're more calm, you fall asleep better, and you identify your positive moments going throughout the day. Then try to interpret your events positively, reframe them. There is always 2 ways to look at the situation. You know, you can either say, oh my God, you can be really angry and say, oh, I missed the subway. And another way to look at it through an optimistic lens is, oh, actually, that gave me 5 more minutes to just take a breather because I had a really busy day. Another thing is that, you know, sounds so simple as acts of kindness. You know, try to pay it forward. It doesn't have to be with money, you know. Smile at somebody, genuinely ask somebody, hi, how are you doing? Look them in the eye when you say hi, pay for their coffee, you know, give somebody a compliment when you see somebody's looking fantastic today. You know, it will leave 2 people happier at the end of the day. And you can give yourself the challenge to do 1 act of kindness a day. Sounds very simple. I tried to do that for a month, and on the tougher days, I really had to force myself to do it. But overall, you just also see it's a good way to connect to other people emotionally, because most of the time you will be surprised how happy people are when you pay them a compliment or when you do them a favor. What is very wonderful about Lennox Hill is, and I hope that I'm pretty sure that you have seen the documentary on Netflix, we do see a lot of resilience in the everyday life of these doctors. So maybe you remember the situation when Dr. Levine was diagnosed with his cancer. He acknowledged the situation he was in. He was really looking at it, and he was not happy about it at all. It was tough. But what did he say? He said, I'm not going to let the worry about my future destroy my present. The bottom line is, it's still going to be a nice day. That is a quote of optimism. And by the way, that is also a screensaver I did for you. So if you like it, please use it so you can look at it every day and take it as an inspiration. And the next thing is train your brain. So when we're challenged, we need a sharp mind. It helps us to focus on the problem better. It helps us to process information and also remember what we know. You know, when our brain is scattered all over, we don't even know where we are. We don't know what's left and right, what's upside, what's downside. We need to be sharp in order to plan the next step that we want to do, in order to find strategies and also solve a problem, you know, going forward into the future. And by doing that, by, you know, sort of keeping our brain fit, we also in the long run learn how to make wiser decisions. We learn new information, and it also helps us to regulate our emotions. You know, ideally, we control the emotion and not the emotion controls us. And that is a very important equipment or a skill when you face challenges, you know, so you can find solutions and you can recover from your setback. That pretty much to me is the definition of being resilient. How can we do it? Very simple ideas. What you can do is that, you know, activate other senses, you know, do things with your eyes closed. You can shower with your, like, don't drive the car with eyes closed, but, you know, simple things like, you know, maybe eat with your eyes closed so you can actually really taste. Shower with your eyes closed. Try to put your clothes on after you have looked at them and, you know, made the selection what you're going to wear, but try to do that. When you sort of shut down or, you know, don't focus on one sense, you know, you make the other senses work harder, and that strengthens the brain. Then also, guilty, I write a lot of lists, and so it helps me to remember things, but then at the end of the day I always rely on the list. So I started now every now and then to go shopping without a list. You know, I try to remember, you know, I make up my mind what is it that I need, and then I go shopping, and I might have the list in my pocket just to double check if I have missed something. Also, you might want to change your routine. Simple things like, you know, get out of the bus one station, then another station that you usually do, and walk for the rest. You know, drink tea instead of coffee in the morning. You know, do things with your left hand instead of your right hand. You know, this way you will process unfamiliar information. And you sort of also force your brain, you know, to trigger new pathways. What you can also do, and this is also especially something when you're under a lot of stress, be it at school or be it at work, you might not have the possibility to lay down. So what you can do is you can do a body scan. You just sit comfortably as good as you can, and then you close your eyes and really think of that you have an inner eye. And starting from your feet and going up to your head, notice step by step where you might have tension. Sort of go and look what's there in the elbow and what's in my shoulder. And when you realize that you have tension, just try to breathe into it so you can relax. But in a way also you can explore your body from the inside out. That is a body scan, and it can help you to control your stress. The more you do it, I do this very often, and by now it takes me 2 minutes. I think I started with 50. So the more you do it, the easier it will be for you to do that. Here also we have a quote by John Bookwart. Maybe you remember when Dr. Langer in the documentary series, it was his birthday, and he gave him a coloring book. And he said, when you're stressed, I want you to color, just stay in the lines and color. So that's a good one. And that is also something that, you know, it also brings in creativity, and it brings in an activity to do. So we have social support and role models, close relationships, which ideally we form during good times. They protect us when we're going through stress or when we face a challenge. They give us a very important safety net and a foundation for resilience. I really think that this is one of the most important resilience factors, you know, that you are surrounded by people who are honest with you and also who are really with you in this life. Studies also have found that resilient people have people they can share their feelings with, and they can ask for advice when they have a question or when they're in trouble. They also support others and catch them when they fall. So it is an ecosystem, right? It's a give and take. It's a two-way street, not just one-way street. And resilient people then actually also reach out for support when they need it, you know? Resilient people have role models. And role models has been, and I love to hear about this, it has been a subject over and over again during brain turns, where people actually offered to be role models, and others said how other people have really influenced them and have sort of given them guidance, but also a roadmap to do their next step. So role models are people whose beliefs and attitudes and behaviors inspire you. I once read a very interesting study that really said all it takes is one person. It takes one person, one role model in your life to really get you through a challenge. I will give you an example of my role models. So I actually have one and a half. One of my role models is my grandmother. She was almost 100 years old. She spent most of her time in her garden. And the best way to describe her really is to say that she was a wholehearted person. She was somebody who she raised 5 children, 5 boys, rather stubborn boys. And she had to endure a lot of challenges and stress during her life, but she was always happy. She was always optimistic. Growing up, I watched her. And I always thought that whatever she said or whatever she did, she always sort of threw it through a filter of love and empathy before she said something or before she did something. And she has died about 10 years ago, but I watched her so closely that I still live with the legacy that she left behind. She sort of left a moral legacy that whenever I need to make a decision or I don't know what to do, I always know what to do because of her. You know, I watched her and I watched what effects it had in her life. A role model could also be somebody that you actually don't know. When I was growing up and when I was a young woman, I was very fascinated by Audrey Hepburn, and it really just started with the way that she dressed. I thought, oh my God, how beautiful, all these dresses. And as I started to learn more about her biography, I learned that she had to endure quite some challenge, quite some stress during her life. She almost starved to death during the war. But still she has this one quote where she said, you know, to plant a garden is to believe in a tomorrow. So you don't necessarily have to know this person or have this person in your life to have a role model. And I think we've been very blessed during the brain terms to have some doctors who make it very clear what their values are and they act on it. And we can take a lot of inspiration from that to see. You know, I still see that Dr. D'Amico is still with us. And for example, I'm very inspired when he said that, you know, he was the first one to become a doctor in his family. You know, how do you do that when you don't have anybody to lead you and to tell you what to do? But to know that there is a Dr. D'Amico in New York, even though he might be far away from you, that can give you courage and also inspiration to find your steps to become a doctor, even though nobody around you knows it. But you know, he's there and he did it. So he can be your role model and you can learn from him the steps that he did. I remember how he once told that he just wanted to get in touch with somebody. So he wrote him an email. He made the effort and he was not afraid of getting a no, you know, and I think he got a yes then at the end. I think he got even 2 yeses. So there he is. How do we nurture social support? A good way to do that is that you volunteer, find a cause that is very close to your heart. Find something that makes you happy and something that creates opportunity, but that also helps your community. This way you automatically find like-minded people. And this is your crowd. That's where you want to be. Build a circle of trust. You know how in times of Facebook and Instagram, we have a gazillion friends, but how many people do we have who truly understand us and truly see us and truly hear us? Build a so-called circle of trust. It is 5 people. start with 5 people. As you grow older, by now I'm a little older, so now I have 10, and I call them my, they're like my master group. These are the 10 people I go to when I have a problem or when I look for inspiration. So, but start with identifying 5 people who are supportive and who are positive, and then write that list, keep it to yourself, but then also make a commitment to be in touch with them on a regular basis. Try to maybe even have one emotional connection a day. That can be a phone call, that can be you sent them a picture, something like that, something that makes them happy and makes you happy. These 5 people, your circle of trust, are the people that you share what is on your mind honestly and openly. This is also a safe space for you where you can share your feelings, where you can also share what is tough on you, all the things that you don't know how to do. They will catch you when you fall, and you're going to do the same thing. Listen and make a call. I might sound very old-fashioned, but try to pick up the phone. There's so many things that we need to do digitally nowadays, and we're really lacking a little bit the human connection. But the human connection is what everybody needs, right? So why not pick up the phone, and you might surprise somebody. And then genuinely ask somebody, how are you? And listen to them. There is a thing called mindful listening, and mindful listening is nothing else than you just listen. You don't expect anything. You just listen, and you try to remember what the person said, and then maybe you want to pick it up. You will also remember what the person said, so the next time you talk to them, you can sort of go back and say, oh, you told me last week you had a test. How did it go? How do you feel today? Do you feel better than last week? And so on. This way you will also learn about other people's concerns and their challenges, and it will help you with your own. You will learn how to navigate your life. And then last, we spoke about role models already. Identify a resilient person that inspires you. It can be within your family. It can be a teacher. It can be a coach. It can be a neighbor. It can be somebody on brain turns. Take this person and observe what they do. Observe what they say and also how they say it. And then take this sort of as a model, sort of as a blueprint for your own life. You don't have to do, you can personalize it and do it in your own way. You have to say what is true to you. But a form of imitation is also a form of learning, and it also shapes our behavior. Finding a role model or a mentor is something that takes time. So be patient with that. But once you have it, it is so valuable, and it's so important, because you feel like I with my role models, I feel like I always have somebody giving me tailwind. Whatever I'm going through, I always have somebody who will always listen to me and also guide me. Here we also have a quote by Dr. Langer. He said, "Are you going to be there for me? I'm going to be there for you. We got your back." And he also said something that I really liked when somebody said in the documentary, somebody said to me, "I want to be like you." And he said, no, I'll help you be you. You can learn from somebody. How does he act? How does he behave? How does he speak? How does he navigate these challenges? And you can also use it for your own. So lastly, we have purpose. Purpose it's quite something. It is something that takes time. Purpose is know your why. Purpose is having a worthy goal. It is having a mission in life, and something that is so important to you that you really commit to it. When you have a purpose, you have a possibility to really use your strengths and your interests and things that you love to do. And when that sort of all is, when you tie all of that together, you really generate an energy and a power to go the extra mile. You will do things that are almost, I don't know, I can say that, above yourself. You do things that are outside of yourself. And to live and to work with a purpose that might enhance resilience. So people who have a purpose, they believe in their life, they have a meaning, what they do makes sense to them. They also evaluate their life as significant. They think that their life is worthwhile. They also have a strong sense of belonging. They know who and where they belong to. And that is something, as we learned before, is very important to be resilient. And they know their why. So they know why they get up in the morning. And knowing that also gives them the strength to endure almost anyhow. Now, purpose is something that, be gentle with yourself when you go and start to find your purpose. Probably you already have it inside of yourself, but you sort of need to, you need to shell it, and find its core. Here is a way how you can do it. We have 4 fields. We have passion, we have mission, we have vocation, and we have profession. The area where all of that meets, that's where your purpose is. And the way that you can find it out, and you see it afterwards in the booklet, I'll give you an exercise how to do it. What we can do is you write a list with everything that you love. Write down everything you love. It doesn't have to do anything with your work. Whether you love gardening, whether you love to, work on brewing the best espresso, whether you love to barbecue, whether you love to, work on the best sourdough starter, whatever it is, write it down. Also write a list of all the things that you're good at. What is it that you're really good at doing? What is it also that you can do easily? Then also look at, what are all the things that I can do and I'm good at that I can be paid for? And then the extra mile is, what is it that the world needs? How can I contribute to the world, and how can I make the world a better place, ideally? I think right now we need all we need all of these people. We're happy for everybody on our team. So you write these lists, and from each list, you narrow it down to 1. So you end up with 4. And from these 4, you narrow it down into 1. A purpose is, we already have an example here again. You know how the motto for the brain terms is inspire, educate, unite. That is a purpose. That is something. You get up in the morning and I'm here in my work to inspire people. I want to educate them, and I want to unite them at the same time. I think mission achieved. So that is a purpose. Purpose is something that really takes some time. For some it might take days, for some weeks. And as you grow, also your purpose might grow. As stronger you get, the stronger your purpose might become, and get more awesome and amazing. Here also we have something that I think describes a purpose very well. It is from Dr. Amanda Little Richardson, which he said, I want to work with populations medicine has traditionally neglected. This is the space I am supposed to be in. I think that's pretty strong, and that is a pretty strong definition and a reason for her to get up in the morning and, work long days and go through the day like that. So practice resilience, I told you already. Josh was so kind to already put the link on the Facebook page. I have created a page for you to find a little booklet that will guide you through all of these steps. Please do remember, practice resilience is a lifelong learning process. It's not something that you do in a summer class and then you're done. I suggest that you start with the resilience factor that seems doable to you, that maybe speaks to you most. Maybe you want to work on your optimism, or maybe you really want to enhance your social skills or your social field. Do that. Then practice and have patience while you do that. Not every day is a good day for that. So be kind with yourself, but show some commitment and persistence. It's like going to the gym. If you don't go there all the time, you're not going to build your muscles. Please also remember that no one can be resilient at all times. Sometimes I have days where I just sit it out and then I continue the next. And also try to focus on your signature resilience strengths. So if you're really good with people, your social surroundings, work there. If you're really interested in the brain and how you can train the brain, do that. Focus with that. And as you build one, you will see that automatically you're also building the other ones. It's resilience is an ecosystem where one really helps the other. Some of you guys have been, share their stories a little bit, and also said that, maybe you're in a family where nobody understands you. You're the only one who wants to pursue a path of, to go into medicine and so on and on. In moments where you're not feeling so good or when you despair, do you know that in me, even though I'm far away, I'm your cheerleader. In moments when you have doubt about it, when you think that, oh, I can't do it, I don't even find one thing that I'm grateful for at the end of the day. In a moment like this, I really want you to remember that I believe that you can, and I'm sending you tailwind from wherever you are. Also, maybe think of resilience as your cape. Don't think of resilience as a shield that will protect you. No, think of it as a cape. And you know how Superman has this cape. This is superpowers. It's your superpowers that when you're, going through strong winds, it will protect you, but it will also give you enough energy to go forward. So the booklet, as well as a book list where I put together a couple of books for you, so you can, do some research and find more about it, is on this link. And as I promised, I created some screensavers for your desktop as well as for your phone. And as you can see, so I'll show you mine. This week I took inspiration from Dr. D'Amico, who says, never give up, never give in. I needed to hear that this week. So let's see what I need next week. So this way, it gives you a way to, just to play around and take inspiration from that. So thank you very much for listening. Please also let me know how it works for you. Don't hesitate to reach out and send me an email. What I need to tell you is that I'm not a psychiatrist. But whenever it comes to building resilience and when you need strategies, let me know. If you need more ideas how you can build your optimism, or when you struggle with optimism or something like that, let me know. And so we can see maybe, going into the future, I think COVID will give us some opportunity to train our resilience. And maybe we can put together like a fun boost class for you guys, or a fun mail out that we can do to, help you boost your resilience on a daily basis. I want to close this lecture with a quote by Viktor Frankl. For those of you who don't know who he is an Austrian psychiatrist who has survived the Holocaust. And I think he even had the opportunity to flee, but he didn't. He felt that it was his duty to stay in the concentration camp and, work as a psychiatrist and help people find meaning in this horrible situation. And I love what he says. He says, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitudes in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. That is resilience. And I really encourage you to do that. Now, let's look at the watch. I think we have some time for the chat. I can't believe it. I love it. So maybe Josh, maybe we want to open up the chat. And so maybe you either have a question, or maybe we want to also share some ideas. How do you strengthen your resilience? How do you work on the resilience factors that we talked about? Let's see.
Myriam, great job. Thanks so much. These questions are going to roll in pretty quick. And honestly, I think that the students are going to have, or the participants, I should say, I always say students, but they're going to have some brilliant questions. I obviously have a million too, but we'll let them go.
A million?
At least a million. Actually, this first one here is a great one. What is your opinion on being a people pleaser?
A people pleaser?
Yeah.
Well, I very personally, so I'll tell you from my personal experience, personally, I don't wake up in the morning to please everybody. And it has to do that I have identified what is my role in the world, and I act accordingly. When I just always please everybody, my focus is towards the other person and not mine. So what I think what is so much more important is to be authentic. And that also takes some time to really identify who are you, who are your values. And, here I'm using also resilience factor that is called the moral compass. And moral has gotten a pretty bad rap recently. We think it's really stuffy, but it is like a compass. It's your guide. It's sort of, it guides you where you want to go. Are you for that, or are you against that? What is it that you do? It sort of gives you a way of what is right and wrong for you. And that at least helps me, but you have to identify it. I think, as I said, I believe in kindness. I believe in paying it forward. I believe in community, in helping each other out. That is something that I profit. But I don't wake up in the morning to please everybody. I lose myself within that. Agreed? Oh, now we can hear. I can.
Yeah, wait, I'm back. Sorry, that was my fault. Let's see. A lot of thank yous.
Oh, thank you.
So it's a lot of people, you know, throughout the sessions that we've had, a lot of people talk about burnout, and there's a number of questions here talking about burnout. And you know, I think it's the, you know, the foundation of what you're talking about here is avoiding a position that you get into burnout, but at the same time also, you know, developing a system to handle burnout. So what's your thoughts on burnout in general?
Yes, it is something that came up in the sessions all the time, right?
Yeah.
You know, to have a job in medicine is tough. I actually don't know how you do it. I don't know how you fill your tanks. You are also confronted, and somebody just wrote something about grief. You know, how can you sort of be empathetic and compassionate and sort of still not fully get into that grief? That's a tough thing. Yeah. Here's what I believe is, and there is one thing also, Randy, that you do, don't you, before you go home, you know, you take those 5 minutes and you just sit on a bench, check in with yourself, give yourself, and that is very important, that you do a ritual, something that you love to do, and something that, you know, self-care is so often associated with, you know, green juices and bubble baths. Actually, I do bubble baths, but when I take a bath during COVID, I take a bath every day, but that is my time. There is no phone, there is no disturbance. It's just me. And sometimes I listen to a podcast, but sometimes it's just quiet. And that is something that you have to find a way. But here also, that's where gratitude comes in. Do your list at the end of the day. You will identify these things that make you happy, that give you joy, but you have to make room for them. And they can be very small and very insignificant, but you need to also check in with yourself to also know, when is it too much? Yeah. And for example, when emotionally it is too much, you know, be resilient enough and reach out for help. That's what you're supposed to. That's what you're.
Well, maybe along the same vein, then there's another. Yeah. There's another question here that I think is similar in the same vein, and especially with this taking time for yourself to understand yourself and understand your issues. It's how often do you feel, one of the participants asked, how often do you feel we should evaluate our purpose through that Venn diagram you showed?
Well, I
think this is an interesting follow-up to what we just went over.
I know. I think what I tried to do is that I try to go over it once a year. Yeah. I try to do that, maybe on a birthday, you know, find something. Either it is the beginning of the year. I don't really believe in New Year's resolution, but that's when I take the time to say, okay, let's reflect. What happened this year that I actually did not enjoy? What was good and what was not good? And actually, I believe that's when I really believe in writing a list, because you see it black on white, right? So you can see it and you can cross it off. You say, you know, no more people pleasing. It didn't serve me. It drained me. You know, it took all the energy out of me. It also, sometimes it's a very tough process sometimes, I think, that you realize when you have people who just take your energy away around you, when you have these energy vampires, to say, no, thank you. This is no way of behavior. It's not accepted around me. To say that also in a way to not hurt the other people, but to protect yourself, that is, you know, it's tough. But I would definitely say that purpose takes time. It also takes a certain amount of self-awareness to know who you are. It also takes that self-care or that time to really work on this. And, you know, something that I find very helpful in this process is also, you know, TEDx talks, whatever, wherever you find inspiration, try to find time at least once a week to listen to a podcast or something and learn from it and see, oh, actually, does it apply to me? Is this something that inspires me? So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah. But as I also have to say, as I grow older, I'm not that old, but older, you know, it changes. You know, I think, for example, Dr. Langer is a very good example to see how, you know, he now also is in a stage where his purpose is actually in giving back, in paying it forward, you know, where it's not so much about what is it that I want to achieve, how do I want to be in the world, but also to help others, you know, to be better in the world. But that's for later.
I mean, everything you say, I want to ask a million more questions, but I'm trying to stick with the participants here.
I agree. Somebody said no more people pleasing. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I like this one. How do you avoid the comparison trap?
How to avoid the comparison trap? Well,
I think they mean, yeah, comparing yourself to other people around you. Langer talks about this all the time. This is his famous eyes inside the boat talk. You know?
Yeah. I would also say, you know your boat and know the direction where you want to row towards. Again, you know, these things, they take time, and it also takes life experience to do that. It might still happen that, you know, that you still see, oh, this person has what I want. At the end of the day, you can also make it your goal to not be jealous and really work on it. I made it, you know, I realized that, for example, I realized that when I was still working as a journalist, you know, you get to see things that not everybody gets to see. And I always even thought I was, you know, for me, it was amazing and I was very grateful for it. But then all of a sudden I realized that other people got jealous of the things that I get to do. And I realized I don't want to bring jealousy into the world. That is a reason why I stopped Instagram. You know, it's not like I cut it off from my body, but what is it that I want to bring into this world and what effect does it have? And I think also that you can make a conscious decision, you know, not to be jealous, and to also look, what is jealousy and where do I have jealousy in my mind? And then just stop. And if you fail, try again. I think these are the things that nobody can just decide and not do it anymore. You know, it takes training too.
Yeah. I mean, this is huge. I think that I appreciate what you said. I appreciate what Langer talks about with this all the time. I mean, you'll drive yourself insane if you compare yourself to everyone around you. And you'll lose focus on what's really critically important, which is that you have one chance to live a life, right? You have one short period of time on this, you know, earth in this life that could be cut even shorter. And I think, you know, being in medicine reiterates that every single day. And if you spend your time trying to climb over people or wondering why you're not as good as that person, you'll lose sight, and you just won't enjoy every minute that you have, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that's where authenticity comes in. You know, I think also a job in this life is to understand, who are you? And you are different than me, and I am different than you. So there comes, you know, the subject of authenticity. And I think that's a very important subject. When you are authentic, you also are irresistible. But, you know, to be authentic takes a lot of courage. You know, that you do what you say and that you say what you think. You don't please everybody per se. But I think also we just heard from Jill Kalman last week where she was told that a lot of people don't like her. Well, so what?
Yeah.
You know, she knew what she was doing. She knew that she was doing a job. She had a surrounding that gave her honest feedback. And I think this is only done with regular check-ins with yourself, but also with the people around you. Also ask somebody, you know, what is it that you like about me? You know, have the courage to ask, are there things about me that annoy you or hurt me? And have that conversation. So, but do it in a way where you almost like, you know, like when you study, you know, do it with curiosity and try to find out where your strengths are. So I really think the key is to be authentic. When you are authentic and when you do you know, people will know what you stand for. And that, in my experience, is how you are successful in life.
Absolutely. I mean, look, you know, I think that when you start comparing to other people, again, you lose track of what's really important. And I think what people want is they want legacy, but they see legacy as likes on Instagram and likes on Facebook and fame and fortune. And that's not what legacy is, right? Legacy is, you know, developing something that you can be remembered for. And that's ultimately living the best life you can live, helping the most amount of people, you know, you can help, or just being there for people and just being a good person and doing the right thing. And it's just, you know, those are things that are more important than anything else, I think.
I agree with you. And here is a tactic for that sounds a bit interesting. But for example, when you do something and you're not quite sure if you should do it or not, ask yourself, okay, the day you die, are you going to regret it? Or will you say, hell yeah, I did it? And I'll tell you what, this is how I stopped Instagram. I realized that Instagram was giving me a hard time also on my eyes. And I said to myself, what if I die tomorrow? Which I won't. I will have a long life. But I said to myself, you know, if I then have to say, how did I spend most of my time with? And I come up with the answer of Instagram, I'm going to be really cross on myself. So this is also a way how to find what is it that I want to do? What is ultimately me? What is it that I believe in? This is a way of looking at how you can look at it.
I do want to focus on one important thing that someone mentioned earlier on. I lost it, so I'm gonna kind of paraphrase. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, I think you did as well. I didn't have a mentorship for ideas of resilience, right? I kind of came to it on my own after a long time, and I developed these things that I do myself, right? Like sit outside for a second, or reevaluate what I'm doing every single day, or making sure that I step back from every decision I'm going to make and say, how am I going to do this the right way and help the most people? These are things I cultivated on my own, right? And I imagine you yourself, and then you started sharing it, which is great. There are people out there who are, you know, less fortunate, people from underserved communities, people who don't have, you know, my parents were middle class. They were blue collar workers, but they worked their ass off so that I would have an opportunity to do something, right? And there are people who don't have that. And so I think resilience takes practice, and getting exposed to it early is huge for dealing with those factors in life. Yeah. But, you know, where do you think, you know, how do they maintain that thought process and that, you know, goal-oriented kind of resilient mentality through these, I don't want to say difficult situations. I don't want people to be victims, but I think
but it's, you know, it's tough. It's a tough situation. Yes. When you're faced with lesser opportunities, or when you are in a community where you're suppressed or neglected, or when you don't have the financial funds to do the things that you want to do, that gives you stress. That is something that also really has an effect on your mental health as well. I always believe in starting with the small and starting with the things that are for free. And it really starts with you. So please do the 3 things that you're grateful for. You know, work on your optimism. When you work on your optimism, you also I always feel like you have the windows open to see opportunities, and also make sure that you see the small ones. So if you want to become a brain surgeon in New York, but you might be somewhere in Tennessee, make the baby steps, you know. And also, you know, helping is not just being a brain surgeon. You can also be a nurse. You can also help in your community, and just have the courage to make those baby steps and try it again and again. And also know that every person on the inside is born good, you know. And I think we have to remind ourselves that when we do the best that we can, that's all we can do. And I wish I had a solution. But especially for those people who don't have all the resources, you guys, you know, that's where my respect goes. And please, again, reach out. So if we, you know, we are a community here as well. So if we can help each other here, let's do that.
I think that's great. And I think it speaks to legacy also. If you're the optimistic person, even if you don't have anything, you know, people will remember that. You affect people around you by being that pillar of support. And it goes to moving you forward into everything you want to do, without a doubt. And so baby steps, I agree with 1,000%. I think that's the
right, you know, and this is also something that I admit I struggle with that sometimes. My favorite tempo is, as we say in Switzerland, is tak tak. I like when things just happen, you know, when they just flow. You know, I have an idea, and then please the next day make it happen. And I enjoy that. But some things, and especially in life, I realize there is no rush. You know, things will happen when they're supposed to happen. And that is more like almost it is, in a way, it's a spiritual belief that I have, but it's also an experience that I made in my life. When I look back, things might not always happen the way I wanted and when I wanted them, but eventually they did. And I was glad that I didn't miss that, you know, because it gives you courage, as you said before, to move forward.
Exactly. Myriam, I have to run downstairs. I have a post-op patient waiting to see me. I want to check their incision, but I'm going to leave you for the last 5 minutes with Joshua. More questions, any final words and everything, and I'll be back for the students in a little bit for the neuro-onc tumor work. Thank you so much. This was incredible.
Well, thank you. I was just saying, you know, I'm ready for your lecture, you know, in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm ready too, I think.
All right. I'll see you later.
I'll be right back.
Ciao. Okay, now let's see. Maybe we want to take one more question.
You got a few more minutes here if you want to answer.
Let me see. Well, for everybody who said thank you very much as well. Now let's see. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So for all the information, you find the link on Facebook, and you will, you'll be led to a site where you can download the screensavers. There will be on Google Drive, and the booklet I think will show up in a pop-up. I'm glad. What is your opinion on imposter syndrome, and how does it go hand in hand with resilience? Well, I think that oh God, that could really be a whole lesson by itself. I tried to make it short. Imposter syndrome is something that so many people have, and I believe that all the wrong people have it. You know, it's actually those people who are really good at something, they have it. At the end of the day, self-awareness can help you with that, to know what you're good at and really work on these strengths. Also to know what you're not so good at. You know, for example, I am not very well in mathematics, chemistry, physics, don't even ask me about it. But that also means that this is not where I give my energy into it. I have identified my strong fields, and that's sort of where I give my energy into it. But that's also where I can build on my trust into life and into my work. And then slowly, I make my successes. I think, and again, it sounds so easy, and it sort of sounds almost so cute, but you know, be kind with yourself. You know, when you do at the end of the day, and if you make the self-assessment, did I do the best that I can today? Then that might be just well enough. And if you didn't, and if you also come to the conclusion that you didn't listen well enough, or that there is something that you might have said, but you didn't, or maybe you have been angry with somebody, or maybe you didn't pay attention, you have the next day, and you can, you know, you can make peace with yourself, but also with the other person. So there you have an opportunity to put that right. And I always think that it's so important to come back into a neutral state, especially when you're very stressed. You know, try to come into a state where you're as neutral as possible, so you can start anew the next day. We have 2 more minutes. Now let's see. Option. Okay, that again is a big question. How are your thoughts on creating boundaries? I personally really think that boundaries are very important. You know, it is very important, and that also takes some practice to realize what are the things that actually hurt me. When somebody, for example, doesn't talk to me in a nice way, when somebody has abusive language towards me. You know, I also have the right to say, no, you can go this far and not further than that. We can say that. We can try to say it in a nice way, also for ourselves, but also for the other person. You sort of give it back. I try to, when somebody is really, when somebody puts pressure on me, when somebody wants self-pity from me, when somebody wants to help me just so that they don't have to do it, I have really come to a place where I just say, I am sorry. I am here for you. I can listen to you. I can be empathetic. But this is as far as I can go. But maybe we can find somebody else. You know, if somebody's struggling with mental health, we can go and find a professional to help us with that. You know, mental health problems are so hard for the person who goes through it, but also for the person who is around it. And we all deserve to have a community who helps us with that. And it is important that you then also look for somebody else. You need your boundaries to protect yourself so that you have enough strength to go, you know, through your life.